All right. So one thing that a lot of people just don't know anything about is half-lives. What is half-life? What does that even mean? When I first got into I don't even want to say the bodybuilding or the fitness industry. I mean, I kind of knew about this stuff going back to just basic biology, but I never really understood what it was until I really like done a deep dive into the supplements that I'm currently taking. And it kind of went down a rabbit hole of figuring out like what this stuff actually does and what it actually means. And it's a pretty cool topic to talk to you guys about today. That's going to be half-life, understanding what half-life is, what it means, and how can it help maybe maybe not from an aspect of like your progress, but maybe just help you time your supplements a little bit better. And it could help your progress in some ways, I guess, but we'll dive into that. So, this kind of leads into the question of, do you ever wonder why some supplements seem to kick in quickly while others take time, or why such as timing your pre-workout matters, right? You definitely should not go you definitely shouldn't drink your pre-workout in the car or during your gym session because one, you're not going to have that hit. You're not going to get the effect if you're drinking it and then walking straight into the gym 2 minutes later. It definitely takes time for this stuff to get in your system and get to full levels inside of the body. So again, we'll deep dive into that. The first thing is, what is a half-life? A half-life of a substance is the amount of time that it takes for 50% of that substance to be eliminated from your body, specifically from blood serum in itself. Now, the point of this whole half-life, even being in existence, is to prolong the substance within your body to give you a longer exposure to that said substance. So, without getting too technical, you have transport proteins that will carry that said substance right through the body, through the bloodstream, giving off a residual effect, kind of similar to adding chlorine to a pool or drinking water, right? The further down or I used to work at a water treatment plant, right? And we would put a ton of chlorine um, into the water leaving the facility in hopes that there would be some residual chlorine by the time that it makes it to the end of the system. So it's kind of the same thing. But essentially, you want this substance to be bounded to a transport protein because if it's unbound and it's just floating around by itself, it will shorten the half-life. So essentially, that transport protein takes the substance for a ride, and without that transport protein taking it for a ride, it would have to leave a lot quicker than what it is wanting to be in there for, right? So you want those substances to bind to get that full effect of the half-life. So this term could apply to many other supplements that we use in fitness, like creatine, caffeine, and even melatonin. Now, this half-life helps determine one, how long a substance stays in your system, and how long or how often do you need to take it, and whether or not timing of that said substance actually matters. So why should we even care about half-life? Basically, because if you understand kind of the mechanisms of it and just a very basic principle of it, you'll be able to time your supplements better. You'll avoid stacking doses that lead to crashes, poor sleep, or even a tolerance of that substance, right? Um, and then just for one, you buy the supplements, so you want to be able to maximize the effectiveness of what you're taking. So, with that being said, let's look at what the actual mechanisms and go through some real life examples of that. So, the mechanisms behind half-life. When you consume a supplement in a very, very, very broad description, here's what happens. Number one, it gets absorbed, right? The supplement enters your bloodstream via the digestive tract, or if you inject it, right, or you take it sublingually, it'll be into the system a lot faster, right? But that's how it's essentially it gets into your bloodstream, right? It's absorbed into your bloodstream. From there, it goes to digestion. It gets carried to the organs where it exerts effects um, like on your brain, on your muscles, etc. So they go to different tissues, different organs, things like that, and they have different effects just based on what part of the body that they go to. Hence, this is what we were talking about before, but the transport protein, they just don't get absorbed and then immediately get taken to the correct place. They need to be bound, which again is what we talked about earlier. Number three is the metabolism. So your liver then begins breaking those substances down into inactive forms, and then number four is excretion. It's These substances are eventually cleared by you pee it out, you sweat it out, or you poop it out. One of those three. That's how you get it out of your system. And a little side note: this is why digestion and having regular bowel movements are super important. You have to be able to clear out the toxins or the waste buildup once the liver gets done with it, because if you don't, they can be absorbed back into the bloodstream and recirculated throughout the body, causing a number of issues. And that's obviously a topic for another time that would take up over an hour for us to talk about. But just a little side note, that's why I preach about digestion. You got to be able to eliminate waste efficiently. Um, so so that's how that works. Now, the half-life is going to be influenced by liver enzyme activity, which we all know that some people's metabolisms are faster than others, right? So this is going to be person to person dependent. It really just depends on if your metabolism is fast, slow, kind of in the middle. That half life is going to be influenced by that. Your hydration status, your kidney and liver function, obviously, if those are not working properly or they're not working as efficient as they should be, that'll obviously affect how much uptake, or how much is able to be processed of that said substance. So the half-life, that's essentially what it is, what it means, and what happens within your body. It's a very basic, very broad, something that you probably learned in elementary biology, I guess, right? But now let's apply it to some common supplements, and examine their half-life to give you maybe a better idea of what it looks like. So if we look at a very common one, caffeine. Its half-life is anywhere from 3 to 7 hours. So let's just, call the average 5, right? So if you have 200 milligrams at 2 p.m., you may still have 100 milligrams. Half-life is 50% of the initial dose, right? You still may have 100 milligrams in your system 5 hours later at seven p.m. So if you go to bed a little early, you still got 100 milligrams of caffeine floating around in your system, right? And then 5 hours later at midnight, you have 50 milligrams. So you go from 200 milligrams at 2 o'clock, 100 milligrams at 7 o'clock, and then at midnight is 50 milligrams, which 50 milligrams is about half a cup of coffee. So just think if you drunk a half a cup of coffee at midnight, you're probably not going to sleep, right? So you got to keep that stuff in mind if you're consuming caffeine later in the day. Um, and this is obviously very important because if you drink it too late in the day, it's going to affect your sleep quality. I typically, if I take any kind of caffeinated stuff at all, it's I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning at the very latest, and then I'm done. Even if I'll have to do something during the day and I have to go to the gym at 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm not taking any kind of pre-workout supplement at all. I'm just gonna go do it without it. It's not worth compromising your sleep over. Now, this is an interesting one, creatine. So, as you guys probably know, creatine is stored in the muscles and it builds up over time, right? So, when I say that it has a half-life of about 3 hours, I'm really talking about in the blood plasma in itself. Since it's stored in the muscles, half-life isn't really relevant, but that's kind of going off topic into the saturation level. So that's kind of why it's important to take creatine on a daily basis, even if you're having a rest day. Take it so that saturation level can stay, pretty much full, pretty much capped out. But if you want to get technical, this is a half-life discussion. It does have a half-life in the blood plasma in itself within 3 hours. Um, so, you know, as far as like if we look at creatine, if we're talking about half-life, like timing, everybody wants to know, should I take creatine first thing in the morning, before bed, before the workout, after the workout, during it? Doesn't matter. It's all about consistency. Take it daily. It doesn't matter when you take it, just take it at some point in time, take it. That half-life scenario doesn't really make a whole lot of effect. I don't want to say sense, but it just doesn't really matter a whole lot when it comes to creatine. Now, melatonin, it's got a half-life of 30 to 15 minutes. It's in and out of your system pretty quick. It's going to peak pretty fast and it's going to clear out. So you take this 30 to 60 minutes before bed. If you're still tossing and turning 2 hours later, the melatonin, it's not that the melatonin didn't work. You probably didn't have favorable conditions to go to sleep and it already wore off. It's already been cleared out of your system. So typically, if I'm taking any kind of melatonin, I'm pretty doggone spot on with my nighttime routine because I know that, hey, once I take this, I have 30 minutes to an hour to be in bed and trying to get asleep. I'm not watching TV for an hour before bed. I'm not scrolling on my phone 10 minutes before I go to bed because that's just not optimal sleep environment, right? And Jacob could probably attest to that. I know that me and him I talked about that a few weeks ago. Um, but pretty much with the half-life, as far as applying this info to what you're doing on your day-to-day basis, just look at your supplements, understand which supplements build up in the body, like creatine, versus those that have an acute effect, like caffeine or melatonin. Be mindful of your sleep, just kind of like looking back toward caffeine. People really underestimate how long caffeine can linger around. So if you're one of the people who take those insanely high caffeine doses, I don't know what the highest is now, maybe like bucked up or I don't know. Several of those pre-workouts have 400 milligrams of caffeine per serving. If you take that at 5 o'clock, well, at 10 o'clock, you still have 200 milligrams in your system. And then what is that at 3 o'clock? You still got what 100. I mean, it's just it's a cascading effect. So you really need to make sure that the substances that you're taking, those half lives are took into consideration. Um, but outside of that, that's all I got for half life. Not a very long topic, not a very interesting topic to most, but I think it's something that needs to be talked about. And we could even go into further talks about other substances, but just for the general population style people who are going to watch this, and even you guys here, those three that we mentioned are probably the ones that are consumed the most: the caffeine, creatine, and possibly melatonin. So, has anybody got any questions about Half Life? Anything? Did you know about it? Any idea about it? Have you used it? Anything at all?
I was trying to get unmuted here. Um, I haven't really necessarily like used it per se, but I mean, it'd probably be. I mean, I assume the most practical application for me would probably be caffeine usage, and then also, I mean, just um, I guess, yeah, probably the caffeine most for me, just for like a pre-workout perspective, and then coffee as well. And you said that like the half life of caffeine is what's the time on that?
It's like 3 to 7 ish hours. So if you want to just take the average
Okay.
and just say 5, just to be safe.
Got you. And so that's how long it takes it to get to the half point.
50%. Yep.
Okay.
So if you take one of those high stem pre-workouts that's got 400 milligrams, you
Yeah,
take it at 2 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, you still got 200 milligrams of caffeine, and then at what midnight, you still got 100. So I mean, it lingers. Now,
got you.
some people have a tolerance built up so high that they can go to sleep, but at that point, if you're taking five, six, 700, 2 scoops of pre-workout to work out, and your tolerance is that high, you probably have some other issues going on that probably need to be addressed for first and foremost. You may be going to sleep, but it's probably not deep sleep. So anybody taking any kind of caffeine after that 2 o'clock time is really just playing with fire. If you have to take something, take a non-stem.
Got you. And I know you said like creatine it didn't really apply to, but in reference to that, do you believe or have any I guess opinion on like if you're So like for instance, like I'm out currently and like I'm waiting on my new one to come in. Do you believe in like doing like a load phase with that or
Um, I guess it really depends on who you ask. I know I've seen some people say that yes, it's absolutely needed to build that back up, and I've heard other people say no, it's not absolutely needed. But you also have to, a look into the fact that some of the foods that we're eating on a day-to-day basis has creatine in it. So you're probably
gotcha?
not fully replenishing that supply. But if you went for weeks and weeks and weeks without it, doubling up for a couple of days, it would probably help. But it's not like if you don't take it for a few days, you're going to see your bench press go from 315 to 135. It's not going to be like that.
Right.
But just keeping those levels up, or it's going to be it's so cheap and it's so easy to take it. Once you get some in, just resume normal dosage. That's typically what I do.
Gotcha.
I think I've done the loading phase once in my life, like when I first started bodybuilding a long time ago. That then I was reading some article and it's like it's not that big of a deal. Just keep taking it and it'll build back up. So if you want to double up, cool. If not, it's not that big of a deal.
Gotcha.
So, well, cool deal. Anybody else got anything to add? Miss Roxanne, you look like you got to say something. Are you good?
No, I just wanted you to know I've been doing really well with not drinking energy drinks because I was drinking like 2 to 3 a day with like 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah,
So
your adrenals were probably very taxed out, so you'll probably start feeling a lot better. Um,
yeah, I think I haven't had any energy drinks. I think in the last 3 weeks I probably had a total of three.
that's awesome.
So yeah, so that's I normally just drink them because of the taste. Well, and
Yeah,
because I feel like I need caffeine. So
yeah. And what's interesting about caffeine, and a lot of people don't even know this, is caffeine doesn't actually give you energy. Did you know that?
no,
It
no.
doesn't. It masks a certain receptor that tells you that you're tired. So if you say that you're tired, or the brain kind of masks that, says, nope, she's not tired, and it just kind of makes you, so it doesn't give you any energy at all. That's the big misconception. It's a placebo effect. If you didn't know that, and I give Jacob a 500 milligram pre-workout, so here, take this, and you'll have a ton of energy. And if I asked him probably 30 minutes later, how much energy do you have? He'd probably say, oh yeah, I got a bunch. I'm shaking. I'm jittery. I'm like, yep, it's all in your head. It doesn't actually give you energy. It just masks that signal so you think so your body doesn't know that you're tired. So, but if you're drinking them for the taste, just get the little Mio water, enhancer things. That's what I do. Because I like that a placebo effect. On my way to the gym in the morning, I have a shaker bottle about half full of water. It's got a little bit of salt in it, and it's got a little squirt of the little Mio in it. So maybe to me, I feel like I'm drinking something, but I'm really
Well,
just,
what do you think about like Waterloos and stuff just for the carbonation? That's the taste I'm going after.
oh
I
yeah.
don't drink a whole bunch of them, just like sometimes of the sparkling water, just because if I'm craving that taste, like the carbonation, instead of getting an energy drink, I'll grab one of those. And I try not to have it so late at night either, just because it makes me bloated. It
Yeah.
does.
Yep. And that's another reason to not have them. I mean, if obviously if drinking something like sparkling water is going to help you from cut cravings or give you that feel that you're after with the carbonation, and that's fine. But if you're driving to the gym and you're drinking a heavy carbonated drink and you're about to do leg day, if my stomach is rumbling on leg day, it's
Yeah.
it's not going to be a good day. So, as but if you're drinking those like sparkling water to just kind of give you that mental effect of carbonation, something, then that's totally okay. But again, it's all gonna depend on how your stomach can handle it. So I don't
Okay.
see any issue with that at all. So
Okay.
anybody else? Everybody else good?
How much is too much caffeine, milligram wise? in a
Um,
day?
I would say, and again, all this is based on your tolerance. But if we're just looking from a person to person perspective, I would probably say I'm gonna go on the low side. I'm gonna say 400 milligrams is probably more than plenty of what you probably should be taking. And I know some people are gonna say I take 900 milligrams a day. Okay, cool. That's a lot. Um, I would say 400 somewhere in there.
All right, that makes me feel a lot better.
How much are you taking a day?
Um, I'm actually getting my last coffee for the day right now, but it's averages 400 milligrams of caffeine of coffee. Usually, I have about 300 between 6 and 8 a.m., and then I have nothing till right now, and then I have my last cup.
Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, if you get to me, if you get any higher than that, then you're probably building up a pretty heavy caffeine tolerance. And then when you come off, you're probably going to have a little bit of headaches. I don't want to call it a withdrawal because that kind of sounds bad, but I'm pretty sure that is a thing as well too, a caffeine withdrawal. So, but yeah, I'd say you're right on the money. So, well, cool deal. I think if anybody else don't have any Chandler or Marcus, I don't have anything to add. We'll wrap things up and go from there. So, as always, I appreciate you guys showing up, and we'll go from there. I'll talk to you guys soon. See y'all.